先生们、记者朋友们，上午好！欢迎大家出席国务院新
Welcome
闻
to
办。
today's press conference.
今天，国务院应对
Today, the State Council's Interagency Task Force on the Prevention and Control of Novel Coronavirus Pneumonia Outbreak is holding this press conference. We invited the persons in charge in 6 ministries to give you a briefing on issues concerning the provision of key medical supplies for epidemic control and daily necessities. Let me introduce the speakers first.
副主任
Mr. Liang Weiliang, Vice Minister of NDRC.
工业和信息化部党组
Mr.
成
Tian
员
Yulong,
总工程
Member
师
Party Leadership
田玉
Group
龙
and Chief Engineer of the Ministry of
交通运
Industry and
输部副
Information
部长
Technology.
刘晓明先生，
Mr. Liu Xiaoming, Vice Minister of
商务部副部
Transportation.
长王炳南先生，
Mr. Wang Binglan, Vice Minister of
国家卫
Commerce.
生健康委副主任李斌先生，
Mr. Li Bing, Vice Minister of the
国家
National
市场
Health
监管
Commission.
监督管理总局副局长甘霖。
Madam Gan Ling, Vice Minister of the State Administration for Market Regulation. I'll first give the floor to Mr. Liang Weiliang.
女士们、先生们、各位记者朋友们，
Ladies and gentlemen,
大家上午好。
friends from the press, good morning.
新型冠状病毒感染的肺炎疫情，
The outbreak of pneumonia caused by the novel coronavirus concerns
党中央、
everybody.
国务院
The
高度重
Party
视
Central
疫情
Committee
防控工作，
and the State Council attach high
高度重
importance
视
to
疫
epidemic
情
prevention
防控
control
条件下的
and
人
also
民
the
群
supply
众
of
生活
daily
保障工作。
necessities
习近平总书记
during
大
epidemic
年初
control.
一
General Secretary Xi
主持召
Jinping
开中央政治局常委会
chaired a
进行
standing
专题
committee
研究，
meeting of the Political Bureau of the CP Central
就
Committee
做好
on
疫
the
情
first
防
day
控
of the
和人民
Chinese
群
Lunar
众
New
生活
Year
保障
and made
做出
important
重要指示，
instructions on various occasions
要求
concerning epidemic
坚
control
定信心，
and the
同舟共济，
insurance of people's
科学防治，
livelihood needs,
精准施策，
calling for confidence, solidarity,
要求
science-based prevention
加
control,
强市场
and
供给
targeted
保障，
measures. He also
切实
asked
保障
relevant authorities
湖
to
北省
ensure
和武汉
market
市
supply,
的各种物资
the
供应，
supply of various
确保人民
materials
群众
in Hubei
正常
province and
基本
Wuhan
生活，
city, and the normal daily life
坚决打
of the
赢
people,
疫情防控阻击战。
and winning the
李克强
battle
总理
against the epidemic.
多次召开
Premier Li
中央
Keqiang
应
chaired
对
meetings
新
of the
型冠
Central
状
Leading
病毒
Group
感染肺
on
炎疫情
responding
工
to the
作
novel
领导小组会议，
coronavirus
对联
pneumonia
防严
outbreak
控工作和各类物资保障
and
作
made
出系统安
systemic
排。
plans for
2月1日，
interagency
专门
prevention
视察了
control
医用
and the
物资
supply
保
of
障
various
系统
materials. On February the 1st, he paid a visit
疫
to
情
a
发生
national
后，
coordinating center
特别是
for the provision and
1月
allocation of
23
medical
日，武汉
supplies.
市
After
采
the
取
outbreak
更
of the
严格的
epidemic,
防控
in
措施以
particular
后，
with implementation of stringent
物流
prevention
配送
control measures by
受到
Wuhan
影响，
on January the
人民
23rd,
群众
the
对
logistic
生活物
supply
资保障
was
极为
somewhat
关心，
affected, and the people
一定程度上
are
也
particularly
存在担
concerned
心
and somewhat worried
一些
about
生
the
活必需
supply
品需求
of daily necessities.
阶段性增大，
There has been
价格
temporary
一度
increase
出现
in the demand
较
of
大幅度
certain
上涨。
daily necessities and a
针对
notable
这种情
rise
况，
in the prices.
中央应对
In
肺炎
response
疫
to
情
the
工作
situation,
领导小
the
组
Central Leading
专
Group
门设立了
set up
多部门组成的
an interagency
生
task
活物资
force
保障组，
to coordinate
建立
the
快速联动
supply
工作机制，
of daily necessities
千方百计增加生活必需品供应，
and made all-out efforts
协调
to
落
ensure
实
the supply
食品、
of the relevant
蔬菜、
materials
医疗
and
物
to set
资
up green
等必
channels
需品绿色
for
通道，
the transportation of
全力以
necessities
赴
such as
做
food,
好武汉
vegetables,
等
and
重点
medical
地区的
supplies,
生活物资
and
供
also
应保障
the
工作。
supply of daily materials
社
in
会各界
priority
弘
regions
扬
like
一
Wuhan.
方有难，
In the
八
spirit
方
of
支援精神，
solidarity and mutual assistance,
各地
various
各有关
localities
企业
and relevant
对湖北
enterprises
省
provided
武汉市
selfless
生活
support
物资保障
for
给
the
予了无私的
supply
支
of
持，
daily necessities in Hubei province and
通过
Wuhan
各
city
方面共同努
through
力，
the concerted efforts of
从目前情况
various
看，
parties.
武汉市和湖北省
The
的
supply of
生
daily
活必需
necessities
品
in
总量
Wuhan city and
是有
Hubei
保障的，
province is well
价
guaranteed.
格在阶段性上
After
升后
temporary
也开始回落。
increase, the price is now
全
coming
国
down,
其他地区
and also
供
the
应
supplies
也是
in
相
other
对充裕和有
regions
保障的，
in the country are relatively
但同
sufficient
时
and well guaranteed.
也暴露出
That
不
being
少
said,
不够协调和
problems
需要迅
such
速
as
解决
lack
的
of
问题。
coordination have also been
比如
exposed and need
鲜叶菜的
timely
供应
resolution. For
还存
example,
在品种等结
the
构性
types
矛盾
of fresh vegetables
有些生
is
活
not
必需
reaching
品
enough.
由于物流影响，
The stocks of certain daily necessities are
外部
not
一些物资
replenished timely
因
due
为
to
防疫
slow
管控要
logistics
求，运输
and
转换
because of
前线
epidemic
不到
control
位，
requirements. The transportation of
保障
certain
生活必需
materials
品
are not
供应企业
sufficient, are not
复工
efficient,
复产， 还面临用工、
Enterprises that provide the supply of daily necessities still face the problem of labor shortage and difficulties in industrial chain in the resumption of production. These problems are being coordinated and resolved. Going forward, various departments and localities will earnestly implement the decisions of the Central Committee and the State Council and take more effective measures to ensure the supply of various daily necessities. First, further increase supplies. For example, we will coordinate vegetable producing provinces such as Shandong, Jiangsu, Anhui, Hunan, and Guangxi to better coordinate with Hubei province to increase the supply of fresh vegetables. We will coordinate the supplies of rice, flour, edible oil, meat, and salt, with the production of COFCO, Sino grain, and China salt, and also coordinate with the companies involved in the production of frozen food. And we also make arrangements for the delivery of frozen pork in the Central Reserve for delivery into the market. Second, resuming production while implementing epidemic prevention control measures. We will encourage companies that are involved in epidemic prevention control, energy supply, transportation, logistics, city operation, medical supplies, and daily necessities to resume operation and production as quickly as possible, and also encourage major projects, major engineering construction, and companies with the right conditions to resume operation. Third, improving logistic channels to ensure the transportation of needed supplies into Hubei province and reduce the risk of cross-infection. The transportation authorities will make use of 5 existing logistic parks to set up transit stations to ensure that the transportation vehicles can unload their cargo and return as quickly as possible. We'll strengthen the building of green channels to enhance efficiency in transportation and redistribution. We will give priority to the transportation capacity for medical supplies and daily necessities. The relevant vehicles will not be required for stopping, checking, and tolling. Fourth, ensuring the supply of factors of production. We will help with companies in addressing the difficulties in terms of labor, energy supply, financing, and industrial chain. We will further improve the utilities supply in Hubei province to ensure safe and stable supplies of relevant materials and resources. Fifth, surveillance. We will check the supply of daily necessities in the relevant localities twice a day. We will strengthen market surveillance in Hubei and other priority regions and resolve problems regarding supply of materials on a timely basis. Sixth, make better use of the reserve. We will improve and strengthen the mechanism of temporary reserve, put more supplies into the reserve and use the reserve only when necessary, so as to ensure the supply of daily necessities to the best extent possible. The supply of daily necessities are crucial for people's daily life and effective and orderly prevention control of the epidemic. The interagency task force, led by the NDRC and the Ministry of Commerce, will work with relevant departments and localities to enhance for awarenesses, strengthen for confidences, and implement to upholds. Follow the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, and to ensure the supply of daily necessities and win the battle against the epidemic. Thank you.
Now give the floor to Mr. Tian Yulong from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, journalists, good afternoon. The outbreak caused by the novel coronavirus have severely affected the safety and health of the people. The CPC Central Committee and the State Council take the outbreak very seriously. General Secretary Xi has personally oversaw and made important instructions on the containment efforts, which he said should be the top priority at present. All the communities and regions across nations sprung into action and swiftly implemented the containment measures. And we have taken measures to meet the urgent needs in Hubei and Wuhan in particular. Under the leadership of the Central Leading Group on responding to the new coronavirus outbreak, a medical supplies group of the State Council Interagency Task Force has been set up with the MIIT taking the lead. We are mainly responsible for the provision, production, and allocation of key medical supplies, including protective shields, goggles, masks, disinfectants, MPAs, and ultra-red thermometers. We have worked with other members of the supplies group in taking up our responsibilities, coordinating relevant efforts, and jointly ensuring sufficient medical supplies. Now, during the Spring Festival, most of the manufacturers of medical supplies are on holiday, and it is difficult to encourage them to resume productions, and the MIT, under such circumstances, have taken 4 measures to ensure sufficient medical supplies. First, we have encouraged the manufacturers to accelerate resumption of production. On January the 21st, we issued 4 telegraphs making specific instructions on the various provinces to ensure sufficient supplies in response to the outbreak, and we have urged the manufacturers to resume production during the Spring Festival, and also stepped up unified management and allocation of priority medical supplies. Second, we have sent special representatives to the manufacturers for greater coordination. According to requirements of the State Council, we have sent 30 DG-level special representatives to the key manufacturers of medical supplies to help them address raw material, logistics, and shipment issues to accelerate the increase of effective supplies. Third, we have established a National Coordinating Center for ensuring key medical supplies. Acting on the instructions of the central authorities, this coordinating center has played an important role in ensuring supplies. It is mainly used to collect, calculate, analyze, monitor, and allocate the production capacity, output, and the inventory of the manufacturers. And we have been using information technology to raise our capacity to ensure relevant supplies. Fourth, we have been making good use of international resources. To meet the domestic shortage with strong support from relevant authorities, we organized international purchases, and some companies, through domestic purchase and private sector donation, have increased relevant supplies. We have purchased a large number of emergency supplies from various countries, and we, together with the National Health Commission, have been working to align domestic standards and foreign standards for the medical supplies. On February the 1st, Premier Li Keqiang visited the MIIT, inspected the work we have been doing to contain the virus and ensure medical supplies. He has also made further instructions. He emphasized that now we are at the crucial stage of outbreak containment, and the top priority remains to ensure sufficient supplies for Hubei and Wuhan in particular. All the relevant companies and manufacturers need to be on their A game and race against time to ensure quality and quantity of the supplies. We believe that under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi at its core, and with the instructions of the Central Leading Group and the Interagency Task Force, with the strong support of the various departments, localities, and companies, we will be able to mobilize nationwide resources to complete the task of ensuring medical supplies win the battle against the outbreak and ensure the safety and health of our people. Thank you.
好，感谢田玉龙先生。
Thank you, Mr. Tian.
进入答问环节。
Now, we will open the floor for questions, and please identify your media outlets
右边第三排。
when raising the question.
谢谢主持人，你好，我是新加坡联合早报的记者。
Thank you. I'm from 联合早报.
两个问题。
We have two
第一是
questions.
湖北方面不断地传出
First
这个
is
物资
that
告急的这样的一个
there have
消息，特别是
been
前线的医疗
reports
物资
of
好像存
shortage
在着严重的不
of
足。
supplies
也有
in
人
Hubei,
反映这
especially
个检测
faced
的
by
试剂
frontline
不够
medical
导致一些病例无法在第一时间地得到
hospitals.
确诊。
And
能不能
there
介
have
绍一
also
下
been
前
reports
线
of
这个
a
物资供
shortage
应的
of
情况
testing
是否
kits,
存在着这
which
个
made
严重
it
告急？
difficult
然
to
后
make
那个物资
diagnosis.
通达第一线是否
Can you
通
give
畅
us
这个
the
渠
latest
道？
update
然后第二个
on
问
the
题是，
supplies
大
and
家现在
whether
都需要
the
戴
channel
口
of
罩，然后
supplies
我们现
is
在普遍接到的这个信息
unimpeded
是
and
中国各地
well
都买不
insured?
到口罩，请问这个口
And
罩荒的
there
问
is
题什么
also
时候
a
能够得
shortage
到
of
解决？
masks nationwide. How and when can we address that problem?
好，谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your
刚才谈到这
question.
个湖北不断出现物资告急的问题。
Just now you mentioned there have been continued reports of shortage of supplies, and on the whole, the situation has been eased, and now the materials and the supplies are in a tight balance of supply and demand. As I have mentioned, it would take time to resume production and work at the factories, and I can give you some of the latest statistics by the end of February the 2nd. Altogether, 154.5 thousand medical protective suits have been sent to Hubei. About 131.2 thousand have arrived, and 133.6 thousand and 95 masks have been sent to Hubei. And we are now working with the NDRC to coordinate relevant efforts. And 130.6 thousand have arrived. And there have been new replenishments arriving as well. And the automatic ultra-red thermometer have been sent, altogether 82 of them, and 62 have arrived. So together with the local production capacity in Hubei, now the supplies are being replenished because Hubei province itself is a major producer of the medical supplies. With its production capacity restored, it could help ease the supplies. But of course, for a lot of medical supplies, especially protective suits, they are still in a tight balance of supply and demand, but the supply is pretty steady right now. Now, Hubei province and the neighboring and the other provinces are now working together to address that problem. As for the NAT test kits, that is a mature means of detecting the disease. Now, the kits are mainly purchased by the health system and the hospitals themselves. There shouldn't be a problem with the supply. But because of the holiday and the delay in resumption of production, there has been some problems. But now the resumption has been, the production capacity has been restored. And now the supply of the NAT tests has been restored to 60%. So what we need to do next is to resume production capacity as much as possible. As for the masks, the daily production in China is about 20 million. That is the biggest production capacity worldwide. Just now you mentioned medical use masks and ordinary masks and N95 masks. Well, we do have the capacity to meet the demand, but it takes time to resume production. Thank you.
关于这个医用口罩的问题呢，
As for the medical masks, let me add a few
这个
words.
库存医疗资源不足呢是大家非常关心的问题。
The
党中央、国务院十分
Well,
重视。
the shortage of supply of certain materials is something that everybody is concerned about. The CPC Central Committee and General Secretary Xi Jinping have made important instructions on various occasions. Yesterday, Premier Li Keqiang visited a national coordinating center for the distribution and allocation of medical supplies. Just now, Mr. Tian already said that we are now working together with MIT to coordinate the supply of masks. And now the supply of masks is twice the volume of the supplies in the previous days. And in order to address the problem, we need to do the following. First, increase supply, which is of fundamental importance. And also, on top of that, we need to make a scientific and effective use of available supplies. Or as for increasing supplies, we are now working day and night to expand capacity and increase production. We have already made some important initial progress. For example, N95 masks, and there is very strong demand from various localities, but many localities have reported or have applied for the supplies that are actually above their actual needs because they just want to prepare for the worst. But even for that, even under such circumstances, we have been able to meet the supply, meet the demands. And some companies are worried that there may be an overcapacity. If they produce so many masks. We have told them in very explicit terms. And after the outbreak, even though they produce more masks, we will put them into the Central Reserve. And so they do not need to worry about overcapacity. And we ask them to do whatever they can to produce the needed supplies. But as for a more effective and efficient use of materials, we ask the relevant departments and organizations to use the medical supplies only when necessary. And we ask them not to overuse the relevant supplies. So I also hope the media can help us do some publicity so that the needed materials will be used wisely and efficiently. Thank you.
好，谢谢。 中央广播电视总台央视记者提问。
CCTV. My question is about the supply of daily necessities like grain, meat, vegetables, and also the price level. And after the end of the Spring Festival holiday, there will be a growing demands of daily necessities in major and medium-sized cities, and also the lack of production in small and medium-sized companies is a factor that needs to be considered. So how to ensure the supply of daily necessities? Thank you. Well, I think price is the most important factor in the supply of daily necessities. You asked the question about price. I think this is something of fundamental importance. Well, let me share with you some data from yesterday. On February the 2nd, the average retail sales price in the markets and supermarkets of 36 large and medium-sized cities in China shows that the price of pork, beef, lamb, and egg dropped by 0.3%, 0.6%, 0.8%, 1.3% compared to the previous peak. And the average price of 15 vegetables dropped by 6.2%. Of course, there are also increases in certain products like chicken, but with a small margin. And take Wuhan City as an example. Following the implementation of traffic control measures, there was a notable increase in certain daily necessities prices, but now the price is coming down. And the pork price dropped by 0.7%. The average price of 15 vegetables dropped by 3.8%, and the price for beef, lamb, chicken, and egg is relatively stable. In terms of supply, the overall majority of daily necessities in the country, especially food supply, is well guaranteed. Grain production in China has been above 0.65 trillion kilograms for 5 consecutive years. There is ample stock in the reserve, and the stock of rice and wheat is more than the yearly consumption. The supply and production of beef, lamb, chicken, and also vegetable is also rising. Pork production is stabilizing. People were worried about vegetable supply previous days, and this is also well guaranteed. It is estimated that the supply of vegetables will increase by 2% year on year. There are lack of supplies in certain regions on a temporary basis, but it's mostly due to the factor of slow logistics as a result of stringent epidemic control measures. And in some localities, the vegetables cannot reach the end market timely, and these problems are being worked out. And as for daily necessities, especially food supplies, it is sufficient. As you know, China has a strong capacity of food processing, and in normal conditions, the capacity utilization rate is quite low. As long as we can organize the resumption of production operation, transportation, and logistics while implementing the epidemic control and prevention measures, there will be no problem with regard to the supply of daily necessities such as food. And after the resumption of production and after the Spring Festival holiday, there will be a growing demands for the relevant materials. And in order to address the problem, we will mainly work in the following 4 areas: increasing supplies, ensuring price stabilities, upholding market order, and ensuring the provision of goods in priority regions. First, increasing supplies. We will produce more than what is usually needed. Even though it may result to excessive stock, we will encourage companies to produce more to prevent shortage of supplies. While implementing epidemic control and prevention measures, we will make all-out efforts to increase the supply of materials and better organize the resumption of operation and production of companies and improve the logistic channels. For example, we have coordinated 6 provinces, neighboring Hubei province, to deliver vegetables to Wuhan. Every day they can supply about 8,000 tons of vegetables to Wuhan. And in Shanghai, we have prepared 10,000 tons of frozen pork from the Central Reserve, which are ready for delivery in Wuhan. Second, stabilizing prices. We monitor the prices of daily necessities of various types. As long as there are some notable fluctuations in prices, we will analyze the causes and take targeted measures to address them. Thirdly, maintaining market order. We will strengthen market regulation, investigate and punish illegal acts such as fabricating and spreading rumors about price hikes and jacking up prices. We will strengthen supervision of market quality and take stringent measures to punish the manufacturing and sales of shoddy products. Fourthly, ensuring provision of goods in priority regions. That means Wuhan City, Hubei province, and other areas seriously affected by epidemic. And the Ministry of Commerce and the State Market Regulation Authorities will give you more details. Thank you. From the Ministry of Commerce, let me also add on this. After the epidemic, there has been some impact on the market. The supplies of daily necessities were tense in certain regions, and the various localities and the governments of various localities attach high importance to that. The Ministry of Commerce also worked with the local governments to strengthen guidance and encourage retail companies to replenish the stock. And the situation is now eased. According to the data we have gathered, the supply of daily necessities and goods in the market is stable, and the price is also stable.
保障市场供应的重中之重。
Wuhan City and Hubei Province are the
商务
priorities
协
for
调有
us.
关的省市
Our ministry is working with relevant local authorities
支援的精神
in the spirit of solidarity and mutual assistance, provided strong support for
湖北省生活必需
Hubei
品市场
Province
供应
and
的能
Wuhan
力
City.
已
Currently,
经得到了加强。
the supply capacity of
蔬菜销
Hubei
售及库存
has
量已
strengthened.
经恢复
The
到了正
stock
常水
of
平。
vegetables and other foods in
武
Wuhan
汉
is
商务
now
局了解
back
情
to the
况来
normal
看
level. According to the market regulation authorities of
武汉
Wuhan,
最大的两个批发市场
the
白
two
沙洲、
major
四季美
retail
两
markets,
大
Baishazhou and
农产品批发市场的
Sijimei,
库存量有蔬菜有
the
8772
stock of vegetables is
武汉
8,772 tons,
武昌
and also the three major supermarkets in Wuhan,
中商这
including
三大
Wushang,
连锁超市
Zhongbai, and
蔬
Zhongshan.
菜的
The
库存
stock
量
of vegetables
当天就达到了2155吨，
has also reached 2,115 tons, which is
19.2%，
19.2% higher than 3 days ago.
也下降了
And
14%。
the price also dropped
刚才
by
记者同志
14%.
目前全国受
Just now,
世
the
界夏日
journalists
的延期人员陆续
mentioned
返
that
程
because
大众
of
城
the
市生活必需品需
return
求不断
of
增加
people,
也存在着
or
局
migrant
部地
workers,
区流
and
畅
there has been
商贸
growing
企业
demands in major
人手
cities.
不足
And
中小企业开
also,
不足等问题。
the companies are facing a problem of lack of labor.
我们坚决地贯彻落实
Our
中央
ministry
委员的决策部署，
pays close
坚持
attention
问
to
题导
these
向和
problems
底线思维。
and following
我们已
the
经部署了
arrangements of the
进一
Central
步
Committee and the
强
State
化生活
Council,
必需品市场
we
供应
have
保障工作的方案，
further
对相关的
improved
工作
our plan
进行了
for
再
the
动员
provision of
再部
key
署
materials,
进一步
and
压实
we have made
属地责任，推动
specific
菜篮子市场
plans
负责制，
to
切实地保障
ensure
市场供应。
the supply of needed materials in the market. And we have worked in the following
组
four
织动
areas.
员复工
First,
开业，
we have
指导各地全面地动员
made
中小商
plans
贸
for
企
the
业
relevant companies to resume operation and production. And we have also asked supermarkets and markets in major cities to
通风消毒 人员疏导
resume
等内部
business
的
as
防控
quickly
措
as
施，
possible,
增加购物、餐
while
饮等基本生
implementing
活服
the
务的供给。
measures of epidemic control,
我在这里
such
强
as
调，
ventilation.
各地
We asked
面
them
对疫
to
情发展，
enhance
要
the
及时
capacity
进行
of
评估、分级
supplies,
管控，
and
不
we
得随意的叫停、关闭菜市场等经营场
have
所，要切实地
ordered
保障
the local authorities to ensure the opening of supermarkets and the trade markets, agricultural markets.
湖北周边9省区市联保联控
Second,
协作
better
机制，
coordination of various provinces. We have made use of the inter-ministry mechanism to ensure the supply of the necessities in Hubei province,
刚才
especially
严
Wuhan.
主任也说了啊，实际上前几天
Actually,
山东啊、重
just
庆、
a couple of
广西
days ago,
江西、云
Shandong,
南
Chongqing,
等地
Guangxi,
已经为
Yunnan,
武汉
and other
运送的
provinces
蔬菜超过了2000
had
吨。
already transported over 2,000 tons of vegetables to Wuhan, which significantly eased the shortage of supply. Our ministry will send a task force to Wuhan
新问题
to study the new problems
进行现
that
场
have emerged in the local markets and
第
provide
三是
guidance.
做好对接
Thirdly,
调
we
调
will
运工作。商务已经
better
明确
organize
了
transportation
一批
and
重点
delivery.
企业
Our ministry
建
has
立百家
identified
大型流通企业
a number of
保护机制
priority companies
到2月1号
and also set up a mechanism for ensuring the resumption of operation of these
可以
companies.
对外调出的蔬菜的能力
And the
应该说还是比较大的。
capacity of
这里呢，
various
我进行了一下
major
每天进行了一下统计
agricultural markets in the
在2月
country
1号
has
蔬菜
been
呢
significantly
有3万
enhanced.
吨，肉类有1.2万吨，
30,000 tons for vegetables, 12,000 tons of meat,
就是一单
and also for egg. So whenever there is a need from various localities, our ministry can activate this mechanism to deliver the relevant agricultural products to the regions. And we have also given orders to ensure the opening of or the smooth operation of green channels. And we have monitored the supply of daily necessities in the market. Whenever there is a shortage of supply, we will take measures, and we will also strengthen guidance to stabilize market expectations. Thank you.
好，右边第4排这位男记者提问。
绿媒体工读者，谢谢。
Kyodo News.
那个前进公路的那个交通状况如何
My question is about the transportation conditions of inter-province highways and also the role of e-commerce in material supply.
这个谢谢您的提问。
Thank you for your question.
首先您问的是有关省际之间的交通情况。
First, you asked about the interprovincial transportation. Well, if we look at the nationwide network for road traffic,
这个错峰出行啊，平安有序的。
we are implementing the policies to stagger return trips and ensure unimpeded road traffic, and the toll charge-free period has been extended to February the 8th for small-sized vehicles. And now the traffic is being well insured. And since the outbreak, the road traffic nationwide has declined significantly. For example, yesterday, according to the traffic we monitored, the total traffic volume dropped by 80%, and the total road network is quite reliable. And in some provinces, because of containment measures and because of temperature screening between provinces, there have been some temporary difficulties in traffic. So the Transportation Ministry has worked with the Public Security Ministry and other relevant authorities to help sort out the problems. And we have also increased the human resources in temperature screening so as to ease the traffic jam. And in this process, we would also like to advise the drivers to not occupy the emergency pathway and ensure unimpeded supplies, especially the emergency supplies. As for the shipment of daily necessities, it is quite orderly, and since the outbreak of the infections, and according to the instructions of the State Council Interagency Task Force, we have also set up a provincial level consultancy and coordination transport mechanism to address some of the problems in emergency shipment, especially the shipment of medical supplies and daily necessities for Hubei and Wuhan in particular, including the shipment of important supplies such as electricity, coals, LNG, etc. And yesterday, about 17,000 trips were made at the Green Channel. About 8,360 trips have been made at the highway in Hubei. And in Wuhan, it is about 2,625 trips. As for the role of the e-commerce companies, they also played a very important role. Usually, the Spring Festival is not the busy season for shipment and delivery services, but this year, in order to contain the outbreak, we have organized delivery and express companies and opened up international and domestic flights to ensure smooth road traffic in order to ensure the shipment and delivery of emergency supplies and the daily necessities of the people in Wuhan and other priority areas. China Post, Shunfeng Express, and Jingdong have leveraged their respective strengths to effectively ensure the basic needs of people during the Spring Festival, and subsequently 13 delivery companies have opened green channels for rescue supplies. For example, by the end of February the 1st, China Post organized 26,000 trips of its post vehicles and organized 5 special planes to ship the supplies, providing altogether 44,000 cases or items of supplies.
Let me also add on the question about e-commerce. As you all know, e-commerce is a very important means of consumption for the Chinese people, and the most distinctive characteristics of e-commerce is online trading and offline delivery. So after the outbreak, e-commerce can meet people's daily needs and reduce the risks of gathering. And after the outbreak of the epidemic, the Ministry of Commerce has coordinated with 11 major e-commerce operators to better play the unique role of e-commerce, mainly in the following areas. First, increase supplies. Well, just now, Minister Liu also said that major e-commerce business operators like Shunfeng, Jingdong, have used their networks to purchase needed materials like masks and goggles from overseas markets, and they have also helped with the upstream producers to resume operation and production. So many of the needed materials are purchased by consumers through these online platforms. And secondly, improving logistics. The e-commerce companies have worked together with delivery services providers to ensure the supplies. Many vegetables have been delivered by these e-commerce operators, thus meeting the daily needs of Chinese consumers. And thirdly, maintaining or upholding the safety of consumption. Many e-commerce operators have introduced a new model of no contact between the delivery services personnel and the consumers. They have made appointments to deliver the materials or the supplies in a fixed location. And this model is being expanded from Hubei and Wuhan to other provinces and cities in the country. Southern Metropolitan News. My question is also about the supply of masks and foods. We find that after the outbreak of the pneumonia, some producers are still jacking up prices and taking advantage of the epidemic and spreading rumors about the shortage of supplies, which has further worsened the problem of imbalance between supply and demand. So how can the relevant authorities ensure market order? Thank you for your question. You asked about the supply of medical supplies like masks and also daily necessities such as grain, vegetable, meat, and milk. And so this is also a priority for the market regulation authorities. We have been working to punish illegal acts and maintain market order in accordance with law. This is a major political task for the market regulation authorities. Following the arrangements of the City Central Committee and the State Council, the market regulation authorities have taken extraordinary measures to maintain market orders. We have taken the most stringent measures, followed the most stringent standards, and devoted devoted extra resources and efforts to ensure market order with regard to daily necessities and medical supplies. So while maintaining prices, we have also taken efforts to ensure the quality of products. We have strengthened supervision, inspection, the exposure of illegal acts, and investigation of suspected cases. We have issued relevant notices and emergency. And also guiding opinions on combating price gouging, with clearly defined standards and scopes for the responsibilities of market regulation authorities. We have sent 390,000 law enforcement officers and investigated 1,413 cases of price speculation as of February the 1st. Let me share with you two typical cases. First is N95 masks in a drugstore in Fengtai district of Beijing. We have imposed a penalty of 3 million RMB yuan, which is the highest amount allowed by law. And also another case is in Tianjin, which is also about price gouging with regard to masks. So coming back to your question about price gouging, taking advantage of the epidemic, we have been very serious about that, and we will punish any such acts to the full extent of law. We have a daily bulletin on our website, and all the information is available there. Now, the price order in the market is relatively stable. And in addition to price stability, product quality is another priority for us, and especially the quality of masks and daily necessities, such as grain, vegetable, meat, edible oil, and milk. Yesterday, 10 ministries and commissions, including Ministry of Commerce and NDRC, launched a special campaign to combat illegal acts regarding product quality of masks and other key supplies, and we will have no let-up in our punishment and investigation. We will make sure that market order is guaranteed and people's daily needs are well protected. Yesterday, the market regulation authorities in Zhejiang province investigated an online mask production and sales case, which involved a total volume of 92,000 RMB yuan. So product quality, the quality of key medical supplies is a very important priority for the market regulation authorities, and we will continue to improve our work in this field. And we are now doing everything we can to support the resumption of production operation of relevant company. is mainly in the following two areas. First, we have adopted some special preferential measures for the relevant producers. As you know, there's a shortage of masks in the market, so we asked the market regulation authorities in various localities to set up green channels and a task force to complete the procedures for business licenses to the relevant companies as quickly as possible so that they can start producing masks right away. And for example, the Haidian district in Beijing has just recently initiated this mechanism. And another example is the harmonization of international and domestic standards. For example, in the past, the masks that are produced for exports do not have Chinese labels, but now following this special arrangement, we allow the sales of these masks before they get the approval from the authorities. And our ministry has also set up a platform for communication between consumers and the market regulation authorities and the companies. We encourage companies to lead by examples and also to ensure to demonstrate their compassion by ensuring the supplies and ensuring the quality of their products. And the companies have made commitments and promises to ensure normal price and and a good quality of their products to the consumers. We also encourage more companies that are involved in the production of medical supplies and disinfection materials to join this platform. And of course, this campaign is a nationwide campaign and it covers various industries. And even some services companies are involved as well. And in our law enforcement and efforts, we have received a lot of support and assistance from consumers and the media. We welcome more media supervision from the media. We welcome more supervision from the media on our law enforcement activities. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm from Bloomberg. Could I ask for your assessment of the economic impact of the virus so far and what you would estimate it might be over, say, the next month or so? And what is your plan to maintain investor confidence? Thanks.
请把问题翻译一下。
我是来自彭博新闻社的记者，我想问一下新型冠状病毒疫情对于中国经济的影响，比如说近期或者说下个月对经济会产生怎样的影响，以及中国将采取哪些措施来维持投资者对中国的信心。
感谢您的提问。
Thank you for your question. Your question is of overarching importance, and it is something that people are all concerned about. As we can see, the impact of the epidemic on the economy is growing, especially in the industries of transportation, culture, tourism, hotel, catering, and entertainment. Now China is in a spring festival period, but we see a notable drop in the passenger flows and also a notable drop in the profits or the income of companies involved in tourism and catering, entertainment. But at the same time, new economies like online shopping, online entertainment are very active. The impact on the economy very much depends on the progress and results of epidemic prevention control. But I want to stress that the impact will be temporary. It will not change the fundamentals of the Chinese economy, which is positive on the long run. Many people are trying to make a forecast on the economic impact of this outbreak with reference to the SARS epidemic in 2003. But China's economic strength, material foundation, and emergency handling capability are notably stronger than in 2003. We have the full confidence and the capability to win the battle against the epidemic. We also are fully capable and confident to minimize the economic impact of the epidemic. Our priority at the moment is to follow the decisions and the plans of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, make effective and science-based and targeted measures to prevent and control the epidemic, so that the turning point will come as quickly as possible and the normal order, production, and life will be resumed as quickly as possible. Now, as for how to offset the impact of the epidemic on the economy, in my view, the most important thing is still to follow the arrangements of the Central Economic Work Conference, follow the general guidelines of seeking progress while maintaining stability, apply the new concepts of development, follow a focus on supply-side structural reform, promote reform and opening up and high-quality development, and ensure 6 stabilities. As for now, while implementing strictly measures for epidemic control and prevention, we need to create conditions for the resumption of production by companies involved in epidemic prevention control, energy supply, transportation, logistics, urban functioning, medical and the supplies of medical materials and daily necessities, as well as companies that are crucial for the economy and people's livelihood. We also need to create conditions for the resumption of operation of major projects, major engineering construction, and the companies with the right conditions. We need to come up with tailored policy measures depending on the situations and help companies that are most hit by the epidemic. The relevant authorities have already introduced certain measures, and going forward there will be more policy measures being activated. What's the most important is for us to turn crisis into opportunity. In response to the problems exposed in epidemic prevention control, we need to take extra efforts and more precise measures to strengthen the weak links and cultivate and strengthen the new drivers of economic growth. As long as we can strengthen confidence and solidarity, take targeted and science-based prevention and control measures, we will be able to win the battle against the epidemic, ensure stable and sound growth of the economy and social progress, and complete the building of a moderate and prosperous society in all respects. Thank you.
In order to ensure effective control of the new coronavirus, what policies and funding support have been given to relevant authorities? Let me take your question. In terms of support policies, in order to ensure effective control of the new coronavirus, the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Human Resources, the National Health Commission looked at 3 main areas, including treatment of the patients, support of the medical workers, and guarantee for the health institutions. First, on the treatment of the patients, we have made policies to provide free treatment for the infected patients, in addition to paying the healthcare insurance. The state will help subsidize the remaining fees. And second, we would also provide temporary subsidies for the health workers. The state and the central authorities have made it clear that during the control of the outbreak, all the health workers who were infected by the coronavirus during the containment efforts, they should be deemed as affected by workplace injury, and they are entitled to relevant subsidies. And third, for medical institutions who need the necessary diagnostic instruments and the funding they need to purchase those equipment and supplies, they will receive subsidies from relevant authorities and the central authorities. Second, in terms of financial support, on January 23rd, the Finance Ministry has allocated 1 billion RMB in support of the containment efforts in Hubei province. After that, Ministry of Finance also allocated 4.4 billion RMB in support of nationwide response to the outbreak. Among it, for Hubei province, 500 million RMB has been provided to boost its local response. In addition, 300 million RMB has been provided to support Wuhan to construct the new hospital, to purchase medical equipment and facilities. In addition, the NHC and the Ministry of Finance earmarked 6.33 billion RMB in support of community-level medical response to the outbreak. And all of these subsidies will be given to the countryside in order to respond to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus. Thank you.
谢谢发言人。那个 CVC 记者提问，就是中国有很多省
We know that
是宣布
in China,
复工的时候不会早于2月10日。
many provinces
企业停工送返。
asked the companies to not restart production until February the 10th. And according to our statistics, the exports of these provinces account for more than 90% of China's total exports last year. How will that impact global supply chain?
好，谢谢你提问。
Thank you for your question.
大伙儿都知道啊，
as you all know,
春节人数的影响。
because of the Spring Festival holiday, actually in the first quarter, the fluctuations of China's exports has always been quite notable every year. And for major export companies, they resume operations normally after the 15th day of China's Lunar New Year. And this epidemic coincides with China's Spring Festival holiday, so we're working with the relevant authorities to gauge the situation. As far as we know, many export companies are now quickly resuming their production capacity, and the various localities also while combating the epidemic, taking targeted measures to help create a sound and a favorable business environment for the relevant companies and reduce their pressure. And actually, there was a good example on news yesterday, the Suzhou municipal government in Jiangsu province introduced 10 measures to help SMEs in tiding over the difficulties. And actually, the central authorities and the local governments have all made plans to introduce targeted measures to help SMEs resume their operations. So the Suzhou example is a very telling case in point. And given the downward economic pressure, it is important for members of the international community to work together to get through the difficulties. As far as China's epidemic control is concerned, the WHO believes that China is doing pretty good, and the WHO is opposed to any trade restrictive measures against China. And it also believes that the parcels and the mails from China are safe. We have full confidence in winning the battle against the epidemic, and we also believe that governments of the various countries on the global supply chain and the various companies from all over the world will create more trade facilitations for Chinese products and Chinese companies. Thank you. Thank you. The paper. Just now, a fellow journalist asked a question about the supply of medical supplies in Hubei. So my question is about the supplies of medical supplies in the whole country. So my question is, the protective suits, N95 masks, surgical masks, goggles, and the protective masks. How is the production capacity in the whole country right now? And how long will it take for the company's production to fill the gap in Hubei province?
Thank you for your question.
整个刚才您提那个问题的，这个又有当前的，也有局部的，也有全面全局性的。那么整个来看，
Well, you asked about
目前
the
生产的恢复速
nationwide
度
situation.
还是比较快的。我刚才也介绍了，湖
The
北这一块
resumption of production
属于
is
顶
moving
平
along
衡
quite fast.
属于顶平衡呢，就是
Hubei
相当于
province is in a
湖北
tight
和武汉的
balance
保
of
障
supply
目
and
前呢是
demand.
优先。
What does
那么
that
应该是
mean?
当前的重点。
Well, it means
但
the
是我们也
priority
兼
is
顾
to
了
ensure the
重点
needs
的
in
其他城
Hubei
市
and in
疫
Wuhan
情
in
的需求
particular. And at the
和
same
全
time,
国的统
we
筹布局。
are also
这个
trying to
过程呢，
accommodate the
在
needs
平衡中
in
呢，
other
应该是比
provinces
较
and
过程。现在
municipalities
从复
across
工复
China.
产的情况速度来看呢，
Now, based
还是
on the
乐观
speed
的。
of
因为什么呢？整
resumption of
个
production,
到今天
I
为止，
believe
我们
we have reason to be
大部分的
optimistic.
刚才紧缺最主要的几种物资的复工的面儿，大概在
Because
60%。
60% of the to 70% of the production has been restored for most of the needed supplies. So it is already making a difference. It has moved from a severe shortage to a tighter balance between supply and demand. So the supply will become more steady as the production capacity being gradually restored. And we can see such a momentum building nationwide. And if we look at the outbreak, we are focusing our efforts on providing protective suits, masks, safety goggles, hospital beds, and ambulances, and we have also made promises for the manufacturers. We have established a state reservoir or reserve by lending from by borrowing from the banks, and we would also help them accelerate their resumption of production capacities. We also reached agreement with relevant ministry for these companies and the manufacturers to benefit from the state policy and restart production of those supplies. So on the whole, I am confident because a lot of the manufacturers have a high sense of responsibility. A lot of them gave up their Spring Festival holiday. They have been working around the clock to provide supplies. So with all sectors mobilized, a lot of the manufacturers are now making rapid production. So we are now moving from a tight balance of supply and demand towards steady supply, and we are improving such supplies across the nation. So I believe this is cause for optimism. Thank you. Last question. Thank you from Dagongpao. There have been some clusters reported. What is the response in light of the return trips after the Spring Festival? Thank you for your question. Now the Spring Festival is coming to an end, and people are making return trips. Yesterday, the Central Leading Group on responding to the outbreak has also issued a notice on strengthening containment of the outbreak following the end of the Spring Festival. So following the instructions by General Secretary Xi, we are trying to prevent the spread of outbreak by means of conveyances and transportation systems, because the return trips do bring some risks to the control of the outbreak, and the Transportation Ministry has been working with relevant authorities to step up our efforts in response. All the stakeholders need to raise their response level and ensure sound ventilation, temperature screening, disinfection of our transportation vehicles and the system. And relevant departments also issued guidebooks for disinfection of those transportation vehicles. They have also provided relevant supplies and equipment. All the stations and the transportation hubs will have quarantine areas and observation areas. For those that have abnormal temperatures, they would be put under observation or quarantined in accordance with relevant regulations and rules. And we're also working with other agencies, including the health organizations and health authorities, to check the temperature and ensure sound disinfections at the relevant transportation hubs. And also for the transportation vehicles traveling to and from Wuhan and other places of Hubei province, we will check these transportation vehicles so as to ensure unimpeded transportation by road, unimpeded green channel, and unimpeded transportation of emergency supplies while cutting off the transmission of the novel coronavirus. That is the principle we are following. And also, We are also working to ensure effective contact tracing, especially those who have used railway, airplanes, long-distance buses or coaches. If there are any close contacts, we need to ensure effective contact tracing. At the same time, we also instruct local transport departments to step up cooperation with education, human resources, and other departments at the community level and at the local level to ensure health and safety of the employees, the travelers, and the students. And if we can all fulfill our responsibilities and do our job, we should be able to minimize the risk brought by the post-festival return trips, and we would be able to win the battle against the outbreak. And we also welcome supervision from the media. We hope you would help us supervise the localities and the employers to fulfill their responsibilities and ensure that all the travelers can also do our part. And we welcome such supervision from the media to jointly win the battle against the outbreak. Well, we just had a very special Spring Festival. I know many of you have been working throughout the holiday, and I really want to salute all the journalists, especially those reporting on the front line, and we hope you would protect yourself and take care of yourself. And I'd like to thank all the speakers. With that, we conclude today's press briefing.